Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us. I'm your host, Michael, and my background may look a little different. I am actually coming to you all live from the Crockett Hotel in San Antonio, an extremely haunted hotel. And I am joined tonight by a guest who is an amazing author who I had the privilege to talk with and meet last year at the History Haunts and Legends in Jefferson, Texas. So shout out to Jody and her little paranormal event that is so cool to attend. You get two a year. So very cool, but I am going to allow my guest to introduce himself because he has got an amazing array of books and he is so fun, and I just could not do justice to all that he does. So I am going to hand it over to the one, the only amazing, talented author, Brian Clune.
Okay, so I was wondering, are you talking about me or my buddy Wyatt here?
Well, for the fun fact that people may not realize is Wyatt is in every book. I found that out in talking with Brian.
Actually, there are only two that he is not. By the way, hi guys, my name is Brian, and Brian Clune. If you're interested in my books, just type my name into Amazon. All of my books will come up. I do have an actual publisher, and I like royalty checks. I'm not going to go any further than that. I just like royalty checks. Did I mention I like royalty checks? Sorry, guys. So I actually, your background may be a little bit odd, but mine's even more odd. I'm actually doing the show from my car. We actually just now got back into town here in California from the April History Haunts and Legends Paracon in Jefferson, Texas. So we had an absolute ball at that one, except for the weather. That one was a little bit different. We're from California. Earthquakes are fun. Tornadoes, not so much. Luckily, we didn't get caught in one, but we did get 3 tornado warnings, which kind of, let's just say that luckily I brought extra underwear. That's all I'm going to say about that. So,
how did Wyatt handle the weather?
You know, Wyatt handled it great. You can't see it, but Wyatt actually has 2 girlfriends in the back.
Oh.
Apparently, okay, so let me give a brief rundown of Wyatt. I picked Wyatt up at Silver City Ghost Town up in a small town here in California called Bodfish. Wyatt, I was told he was cursed, but I don't believe he's cursed. But what I do know about Wyatt is he does move on his own. There's been a couple things that have happened with him that we just cannot explain, like him being on the Queen Mary and actually getting through 2 closed doors and then up onto a dresser to basically scare the living you-know-what out of my partner, Bob. I actually enjoyed that one because Bob woke us up at about 2:30 in the morning, literally screaming. And when we went in, Wyatt was actually on the dresser just staring at him. And we really don't have any idea on how Wyatt got there. So because of that, we've been, my wife and I have been very nice to Wyatt. And as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, Wyatt is in all of my books except for the first 2. So the ones that he is not in is my California's Historic Haunts and Ghosts of the Queen Mary. And the reason for that is I did not have him at the time. However, every single one of my books since those 2, he is somewhere in the book. He's my version of Where's Waldo. In this case, it's Where's Wyatt. But it seems that we are now starting to collect haunted dolls, I guess. We were given one by a friend of ours in Amarillo, Texas. She was like, we were telling her about Wyatt. She goes, "Oh my God, I have something for you." She brings this huge doll over, sets it on Terry's lap, and says, "Here, take this. I don't want it anymore. It's doing weird things." So we were like, "Oh, okay." And now her eyes have disappeared.
Whoa.
Yeah, so she had eyeballs. She was in the back seat of the car where she kind of lives, and all of a sudden her eyeballs just disappeared. And after 6 months, we're like, okay, where are her eyeballs? They're not in her head. They are not in the car. Her eyeballs are just gone, which makes her even more creepy. But one of the weird things with my wife named her Dorinda. Is that she kept missing a shoe. We would put her shoe on, or both shoes on, and then one shoe would just turn up missing. And we would find it somewhere in a weird spot in the house, or in our laundry room, which is out in the backyard. And we would put it back on, and the shoe would end up missing again. It was just strange. And since the last time that Dorinda lost her shoe, we have not found it yet. Hopefully we will, because like we told Dorinda, we're not giving you a new shoe. If you keep taking it off and losing them, we're not going to just keep buying her new shoes. It's not going to happen.
I wonder if the shoe's now with the eyes.
You know what? I hadn't even thought about that. But I'll tell you, she looks really creepy now, with no eyeballs, because her eye sockets are completely black, and I mean completely black.
Would you like me to?
And would you like my wife to get Dorinda? We can put her up here and.
Sure, if you don't want to get it crowded out.
I don't care. When you have haunted dolls, you want to be nice to them so they don't do things to you.
That's why I'm saying bring them up if they want to come up.
There you go. And then we have this other one that we got last year at the Los Angeles County Fair. So we sell my books at the fair every year, and we do every single weekend. So we're there for 16 days through the first weekend through Memorial Day. And this last year, we had these people who sold dolls next to us. They would sell creepy dolls, stickers, all kinds of weird little things. And we come in one day, and unfortunately, I cannot remember his name. Really nice guy, the one who makes the dolls. He said that they had this doll that they had no idea where it came from. And he was like, I didn't order it. I didn't make the doll. I have no idea where the doll came from. We're getting kind of creeped out. So naturally, my wife said, "We'll take it." It's like, are you kidding me? Enough with. Okay, so here is Dorinda.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can see. It's like, okay, she's weird, but she's okay. This is one of Wyatt's girlfriends, and
he's a pedophile.
Yeah, she seems to enjoy it. We don't know how old Wyatt is, but he may be a pedophile. We're hoping he's not, because we think Dorinda might be fairly old too. If you look at her, she looks really old to us. Yeah. And then this is the one that we got at the LA County Fair. And he said he did not make this doll.
He didn't order it?
He didn't order it. He didn't make it. It just showed up looking like this.
No, he made
So, it's, she named her Lavinia. Lavinia. So.
That's a much nicer name than I would have thought of.
She's waving. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. Yeah, so it's just, odd.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the interesting thing is looking at Dorinda is the eyes, the sockets look like they have the eyelids down, so it'd be really hard to get the eyeballs out, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, they may be somewhere in her body cavity, but we're not sure. But we think her head is one of those heads that you can just pull off. We think. We're not going to pull it off, just in case.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would recommend removing a haunted doll's head.
Yeah, no, not going to happen. So, anyway, so those are our haunted dolls.
So, I'm curious, because we're talking about your books. What was your favorite book to write, and why?
So, the favorite one to write is probably my favorite book, period, of mine. It is a book called Hollywood Obscura. And that book is actually completely different from all of my other paranormal books. My other paranormal books are all location-based, where Hollywood Obscura is actually person-based. So all of the stories, instead of being about a certain location, are about a certain person. So the way I have the book structured is I have it structured from the 1930s up to like 1996. So you have the very first chapter is about a woman. Oh my God. Yeah, this is what happens when you're getting older and shoot, what is her name? The blonde bombshell.
Marilyn Monroe?
No, not Marilyn Monroe.
Jane Mansfield?
No. Hot Toddy.
Oh.
Thelma Todd. Oh my God, my brain. So anyway, Thelma Todd. And there's a lot of misinformation about her. People say that she was killed by Lucky Luciano, and because he came out here to her cafe and tried to get her to have it become a mob hangout and gambling hall. The problem is historically, Lucky Luciano never set foot in Los Angeles or California, for that matter. But there's a very strange tale about her partner's yacht, the MV Joyita. It is, and I'm not going to go into the whole story of the boat, but it has been classified and given the nickname the Pacific. And my brain just stopped working again.
Pacific.
No.
Mary Celeste.
Mary Celeste. The Pacific Mary Celeste. Just because of all the weird things that happened with it. Then I do have a story about Bugsy Siegel. And a lot of people might be surprised to find out that he was not killed by the mob. He probably would have been at some point, but somebody by the name of Moose killed him due to a bizarre love triangle. And what I find so amusing about amusing is a weird word, but you know what I mean is that Bugsy Siegel is buried in a crypt in Hollywood Forever Cemetery, very near the person who had him killed. So I often wonder how they rest together, if that makes any sense. Then Marilyn Monroe. I do have a whole thing about Marilyn Monroe and how there was a mobster from Chicago whose family did release papers showing that Robert Kennedy did have him kill Marilyn Monroe. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail with any of the stories, but that one, anybody who's interested in Marilyn Monroe, there's some relatively newer information. I won't say new because the book's been out for quite a while. Back when the book was released, there was some new information about Marilyn Monroe that had just come out from her psychiatrist, and it was just sort of an interesting. I'm being attacked by a doll here. And then, ooh, I'm in trouble. Anyway, then the Black Dahlia. I think this is the one that I got drawn into the most. And the History, Haunts, and Legends Paracon that last November that you were at. I don't know if you listened to my talk at all. But it was all about the Black Dahlia and how Steve Hodel, his father did not do it. There's so much evidence out there that his father didn't do it. He basically just hated his father and wanted him arrested. But the one thing that I always want to make sure I get out is that Elizabeth Short was not this hard-drinking whore that history has made her out to be. She was basically just a lost 22-year-old girl who basically only drank once in her entire life, got busted, sent back to Massachusetts because of it, and basically swore off drinking ever since. She might be at a party here and there, and she would actually have one drink that she would literally nurse the entire evening and barely even touch it. So, you know, a lot of the stories that I have in there were me trying to put the real stories of celebrities who have been
misrepresented.
Thank you. That's a great word. Thank you for that. You know, and then one of the ones that and this is one that really touched my wife was Ramon Navarro. He was an actor who started as Rudolph Valentino's protege. A lot of people don't know that Rudolph Valentino was actually gay, and he and Ramon Navarro had a relationship. Ramon Navarro was quite open about himself being gay. MGM throughout his life was trying to get him to marry a woman so he could have a beard, as they called it, to try and prove that he wasn't gay, because they were afraid that people wouldn't go to see his movies, because after Valentino died, Ramon Navarro became the next Latin lover. And it was just a whole thing with him. And at the end of his life, he had two brothers kill him over stupidity. Ramon Navarro had been redoing his house up in Laurel Canyon, and he had been on the Johnny Carson show, and he had made a statement that he had $5,000 alone in his living room. Now, they were talking about refurbishing the house. Well, these two idiots thought he was hiding $5,000 in his living room somewhere. So they actually killed him over that. They beat him so viciously that they beat him to death, and on the coroner's report, it stated that even his penis was bruised.
Oh my God.
That is just horrendous. But what makes it worse is it would have been national news, his murder, except for the fact that the Manson murders took place a few days later and completely bumped him right out of the news cycle. So, that's one that I really, want people to kind of understand. And yes, there are ghosts involved with every single one of the people that I write about in there. So there are ghosts of Ramon Navarro, Marilyn Monroe, of course, Thelma Todd. Oh, and you heard about the fires we had here in LA recently? Yeah. I still haven't found out yet, but Thelma Todd's Cafe, they actually were in front of the cafe on Pacific Coast Highway, when you can see the fire behind Thelma Todd's. So at this point, I still don't know whether Thelma Todd's Cafe has burned down or not. But that was one of the most haunted places, especially for Thelma Todd, in Malibu. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed because it's still really hard to get in there because of all the destruction, but I'm hoping that it didn't burn down.
It would be interesting to see if everything burned around it, and like it was so haunted, it kept the fires at bay.
Yeah, I mean, and the structure itself was it wasn't a wooden structure, so that would have helped. So one of these days I am going to go down there, but one of the people that I work with on board the battleship Iowa was telling me he was called up for looting. He's a reservist, and he was telling me that it's gonna take months and months to be able to clear it all away enough to where they're gonna allow the same type of traffic going through there. So I want to give them a little bit of time to figure out what's going on, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So
right, and I don't want to sidetrack too much because your books are so interesting, but when I was reading your bio, you had the most interesting intro to the paranormal field because you talk about how you were an enthusiast, but then you had a unique experience that turned you into an investigator. Can you share about that?
So, are you talking about Grumpy? Because I have a few first. This is going to sound kind of weird, but I grew up in a haunted house, and the spirit that was haunting the house was my father. So I guess because of the fact that I knew who it was just kind of like, okay, I never really thought of it as a ghost, if that makes sense, because it's my dad. And then a little while later, my oldest son and I, we would watch all of those TV shows, the world's most haunted places, where they would take a bunch of people who were not paranormal investigators, and they would take them into like Chillingham Castle, and they would put each one in different rooms, and they would have to find each other through this haunted house. So my son and I would watch those, and we would just sit there and laugh at the people like, oh, come on. Why would you even put yourself in a position like that if you're afraid of ghosts? Well, when my son aged out of the Boy Scouts, him and I started to kind of drift apart. So I asked him what we could do to, reconnect. And he goes, well, let's go ghost hunting. And I was kind of like, really? Are you kidding me? Because, like I said, I wasn't thinking of the fact that I grew up with my father, who passed away in 1963, as a ghost. So to me, it was just, and then all I had were the TV shows in my head. So I was like, all right, fine. I'll find a team, and we'll see what, if we can do it. Well, I was having so much fun. I wasn't even thinking about ghosts, and the team I was with, it started off as Pacific Ghost Hunting Society, and then something occurred where we ended up changing names to Planet Paranormal. And we actually had an office on board the Queen Mary. All right. So we were literally down there 5 to 7 nights a week investigating. It got to the point where the security they'd see us coming and they'd just go here and they'd just hand us the keys and say, go have fun. So we literally had free reign of the Queen Mary to go wherever we wanted. The only thing we had to do was have a ship's fire watch with us the whole time. Okay, and the fire watch guys were kind of funny, but I kept telling everybody I'm not feeling anything. There's no ghosts here, and they started making fun of me for this. They were like, "Yeah, Brian's going to be there. There's no ghosts," and just all this stuff like that. So we were down in the first class pool, and I was getting a little bit bored. We'd been down there for maybe half an hour or so, and there wasn't really anything going on. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back into the change room. Now, the change room, there are no lights in the change rooms. It's a series of stalls that span from port to starboard across the pool. And there's no lights in there. You have to walk down a 20-foot to 25-foot long corridor that is only like 3.5 feet wide. So I was asking everybody, hey, you guys want to go back there with me? And they're like, no, we're going to stay here. And I was like, fine, I'm going to go back there myself. So I'm halfway through this corridor, and all of a sudden I get this right in my ear. Now, like I said, the hallway is only 3.5 feet wide. You can run your hands along it. And while I got the growl, I could feel my earlobe vibrate. So I was kind of like, oh, okay. And I turned around, and I calmly walked out of the... Did you hear something? I didn't hear a thing.
No.
But I calmly walked out back into the pool, at which point everybody was just cracking up. Now, they say I had a dude run moment, but I will never admit to that. I may have been walking a little faster than normal, but I definitely was not running. But literally, they were laughing like you would not believe, because it was loud enough that they all heard it. And Bob just looked at me and goes, you met Grumpy, I see. So I like to joke about the fact that Grumpy popped my paranormal cherry. So
sounds like it.
Yeah, I don't know if that was what you were referencing as far as the Bob.
Seen the sun, but the whole story together was perfect. I mean, that's a great story.
Well, here's what's funny. By that time, my son was completely out of it. We had one thing happen, and he never came back after that. I'm not going to say that he was scared or anything. I just don't understand. Maybe it just wasn't his thing. But like I said, I was having a ball. So I stayed with it, and I'm stuck with it now.
Yeah, and you have now, what, 5-6 books out of it?
I just turned my 16th book into the publisher. It'll be released August 26th. My publisher has me working on 2 books about Route 66. One of them is a non-paranormal book. The other is going to make me look like Gilbert Grape's mother when I'm done. It's haunted taverns and eateries along Route 66. I am working on a book about the Winchester House. Are you familiar with the Winchester House?
I am, and it's on my bucket list, but it's just so far from Texas that it's like, I'm hoping to get there someday.
Yeah, it is definitely far from Texas, but I'm going to try and have the Winchester House book out as my next paranormal book. And then I've been working on a true crime book titled Murder and Mayhem Hollywood for Arcadia. I'm working on Ghosts and Legends of Oatman, Arizona, and I was at the Yuma Territorial Prison State Park today, and asked them if they want a book. And they were like, "Oh my God, yes!" So now I'm working on that. So, and I'm supposed to be retired. No.
I was about to
Uh-oh.
ask, where do you come up with the inspiration to look into these stories? And it's like funny that you go, yeah, I was at the human, prison and asked them if they wanted a book, and now they're getting a book.
So, the Yuma one, that one was actually fairly easy. A few years ago, some friends of mine from NOPS, North Orange County Paranormal Society, who, by the way, if you're ever in Fullerton, California during the Halloween season, they do a ghost walk for Fullerton. They are great. They have a lot of fun. They're not all serious. This is a ghost. They have a lot of fun, and they have a lot of fun with their guests as well. So just wanted to put that out there. But they used to do some paracons out at the Yuma prison, and we were driving through Yuma today. We took a slightly different route to get home, and I was like, oh, you know what? The last time we were here, they were closed, so I want to go see if they're open. And so I walk in, and everybody was busy, so I'm looking at the books, and I saw some ghost books in there. So I was like, huh. And I had already asked my wife to check to see if there was a book about it, and there wasn't. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to ask them. And sure enough. And then my publisher also will request me to write certain books. So my California's Haunted Route 66, that was their idea. And it's kind of funny. My wife and I were coming back from Texas, and we were on Route 66 in Arizona when my contract editor calls me and says, hey, how'd you feel about doing a book on Route 66? And I'm thinking, okay, well, we're on Route 66, so it must be fate, So they are also the ones who asked me to write Haunted Southern California and Haunted Northern California. And then while I was in the middle, well, not the middle, but I was about 4 months into Haunted Northern California when I got a call from my marketing rep who said, hey, we need a book on Los Angeles. And I was like, well, I was told that books in Los Angeles don't do well. He's all, I don't know who told you that, but we want a book about Los Angeles. And I was like, okay, I'll talk to my editor about that. And he's all, yeah, so will I. The next thing I know, I'm putting Haunted Northern California aside, and I'm working on Haunted Heart of Los Angeles, which, by the way, I had a lot of fun doing. So when I was done with that, then I kept going with Haunted Northern California, and yeah, so I'm busy.
Yeah. Do you ever get to, like, where you're, like, driving somewhere and you're like, I'd really like to do a book about this, and get to call the editor and be like, can I write a book about this? And they're like, okay, or are they all assigned?
So, I probably called my editor 3 times on this trip alone. Hey, what do you think about a book about this? What do you think about a book about this? And at this point, she just cracks up. Because she's like, okay, I'll add it to the list. I think you have about 30 of them now. So, yeah, she actually, my editor and I, over the years, we've become pretty good friends. We've never actually met in person, but we talk to each other so much. I'm one of those weird people. I don't like emails unless I absolutely have to. I prefer, actual contact. So instead of sending her a bunch of emails, I call. And so, we talk, so that gives us a personal connection, which I think really helps. And Lori's great. I mean, I count on her for pretty much everything. She's great as far as giving me advice when I need advice on how to work on a specific chapter or a specific book or a specific section. She's always right there to give me any help I need. So she's absolutely wonderful, and she really likes my wife as well. Actually, everybody at Arcadia loves my wife, because she's my initial editor, and she really makes it so they don't have a whole lot of work to do. So now, if they only knew her, they would probably send hitmen after her. But
Lori and I need to talk.
No, you don't.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I was talking about your wife being the editor. Is there ever a time when she looks at you and goes, "We can't publish this book. You need to start this all over. This is too far," or what were you thinking?
Yeah,
I'm amazed. No.
I had never actually even thought about how I write, but I've actually had other authors, especially nonfiction authors, ask me, how many drafts do I have to go through before I get it right? And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, how many drafts? How many changes? And I'm like, none. I just write it. I literally go straight through. And they're like, how can you do that? And I said, I don't know. I sit down, I do the research, I sit down to write, and when I'm done with the chapter, I look through it and go, okay, this needs a little bit of editing, but the editing would be for spelling, different ways that if I'm going too fast, my word selection might be a little bit off, or I might put, one word in front of another when it should, and just things like that. But they're all minor grammar and things like that. So tenses, yeah. And I've actually was surprised because I have written a novel. I have not thought about publishing it. This is going to sound kind of weird, but because it came out, 100% came out of my head, it's different than me researching history, writing about history, and writing about ghost stories. I don't know how to put it. I'm afraid of putting it out because people will be going, "Oh my God, that came out of your head."
That's what I said.
So, but my beta readers I've had a couple beta readers go, "Would you please hurry up? Because I want to know what happens." Because I sort of left it open in case I ever wanted to do a sequel. So, I don't know. I'm just lucky. I just seem to be able to get everything done in one draft. And I am what's called a pantser. So you have authors who have to plan everything out. I got to do this here, this here, this here, this here, this here, this here. Where I just go, whoop, I just sit down and just start writing. I don't plan anything out. I'll pick a subject, like Preston Castle. I say, all right, I want to write a chapter about Preston Castle. I'll research Preston Castle, and I'll just do it, but I never know where it's going to be in the book, if that makes sense. So I just sort of do it.
Seat of my pants.
By the seat of my pants, yeah. That's why they're called pantsers. And that's actually a literary term, believe it or not. So, yeah.
It kind of makes sense because if you're doing, like, say, a book on a certain area, getting all the information together, you could sit there and kind of look at getting the flow of almost like a roadmap and going, you can go here to here to here. instead of going, okay, we're here, we're over here, we're over here, we're over here. And so maybe that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, maybe, but like I said, with Haunted Northern California, because I'll use that one because I just finished it. I did a chapter in Monterey Bay, and then jumped all the way over to the eastern part of the state, then jumped down a little bit south of Sacramento, then all the way up to the border. So I mean, I was literally all over the place. And then I'm like, okay, the book's done. I've got my word count. Oh my God, how am I going to put this together? That's the worst part. So I'm like, all right, I need to put this here, and then this will go here, then this will go here, and hope that it comes out correct. So they seem to be working. I guess. So, you know.
I mean, having 16 books written, you must be doing something right.
I guess. I actually had one of my books featured in Life magazine. And yes, I do brag about that. Because and here's the funny thing. I didn't know the book was in Life magazine. My publisher didn't know. And we found it by accident. In 2016, Life magazine did a World's Most Haunted edition. It's a black cover with the Dracula's castle on the front. Okay, and we were standing in the checkout line at a Walmart grocery store, and I glance down and I see the Life magazine and I see where it says Queen Mary. And I'm like, what? So I pick it up, and I'm looking at it, and I walk over to my wife, and I go, and I'm joking. I said, would you look at this? They did a whole article on the Queen Mary, and they didn't even talk to me. What is wrong with them? And I handed her the magazine. You know, and like I said, I was just kind of joking around with her. So I go back, and I pick up another one, and I'm just kind of glancing through it. Next thing I know, she calls me back over, and she goes, I think I know why they didn't talk to you. And I went, why? And she goes, because the whole article is about you and your book. And I was like, wait, what? You know, and sure enough, she points where it says, author Brian Clune from his book, Ghosts of the Queen Mary. I'm like, wait, what? Huh? And I immediately called my publisher, and they were like, we don't care. We were wondering why book sales went through the roof of that book. You know, because I was thinking, oh, did they need to let the publisher know? The publisher must know. And sure enough, they didn't. But like I said, they didn't care. They were just happy, you know, because book sales had gone up, and they had no idea why. So yeah, I like to brag about. Yes, I was in Life magazine. So. Uh-oh. Where'd you go?
Oh, no.
You seem to have vanished.
Oh, you're up there all by yourself.
Yeah, I'm up here all by myself. Where did you go?
Is that on us or him? I mean, there's 15 minutes left.
Yeah. No. Hello.
Oh, strange.
I'm feeling kind of lonely. It says I'm still in the show.
I don't know.
And it is still recording.
We'll talk.
Well, I don't know whether everybody can see or hear me, but just in case, I am going to sit here and babble for a while. With my new book, I don't know how many people have heard of a place called Preston Castle. It was originally a can't respond to that.
This is Terry. He kept talking. He's still talking.
We'll let him know that it's still showing that we're live, and
it still shows it's live.
Well, anyway, I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't know whether the show is still recording. You're back.
I so apologize for that. It just
that's okay.
StreamYard disappeared, and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, I didn't know whether it was still going, so I was like babbling for a while, and then I was like, okay, well, you know what? I don't know if you guys can still hear me. I'm just going to start talking about my new book, and I was starting to talk about Preston Castle, and then she showed me that you said that your internet crashed, and I'm like, okay, so there's going to be some weird stuff in there, but I was trying.
No, that's what I love about StreamYard. It's so funny is even though I wasn't there, it kept going. So whatever you were talking about is still there. And so
well, I wasn't really
seeing what I missed.
Yeah, you really didn't miss much except for me going, hello, are you there? Hello, I'm feeling alone. I'm just kind of doing that. I'm just like, all right. And then I look up and said, well, it still says it's live, so maybe I should continue to talk or something. And so, yeah, it'll be an interesting show.
So questions?
Yeah. I mean, you can't expect anything else live on the road. You know, there's gonna be a few hiccups.
Exactly. I don't know whether I told you, but when Pete and I and Angie, we had a show called the Full Spectrum Project.
Yes.
And we had a lot of fun. Pete and I sort of automatically got into this rhythm where we would both ask and answer questions, but it started to come off almost like a Johnny Carson, Ed McMahon shtick. And Angie, she was wonderful. She would do the Weird World News at the top of the hour. It was a 2-hour show. But our very first show, we had Alexandra Holzer on. And we thought we were going to get shut down on our very first show. Alexandra is great, but Alexandra
has a potty mouth.
Yeah, potty mouth. She talks like a trucker, and we're asking her questions, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that beep 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 beep." You know, we don't have a delay, and we're over going, "Oh my God, Alexandra, stop!" You know, finally Pete's like, "Alexandra, we don't want to get shut down on our very first show." And she's all, "Oh, this is a podcast. Don't worry about it." We're just like, oh my God. But it was great. We had so much fun on that show. We would take our subject very serious, but kind of like you, we wouldn't take ourselves serious. So we had a lot of fun. And pretty much all of our guests said, if you ever want me back, please. I had so much fun. There was one guest, I cannot remember her name, but she was a stick in the mud. Yeah, she was boring, and when the show was over, she goes, well, I don't think I'll be back. And we felt like saying, yeah, well, we'll never have you back. You're boring. But we didn't. We were very nice to her.
She was a bitch.
Yeah, turns out she was a bitch.
Yeah, I've come across a couple where I love, and I'm sure you're familiar with podcasting, is going, so how did you get your start? Oh, well, it was interesting. And you're like, can you give me more? Can you give me something to work with? And it's like, oh, man.
Yeah, that you would drive us up a wall when you would get somebody on there and you would ask a detailed question and you would get yes. And you're like waiting. Is there more? Or just why aren't you talking? So Yeah, and like for me, it's not hard. I just keep talking. So it's like Pete and I think that's one of the reasons why I started to get into dad jokes. So when we would have a guest on that just was not cooperating as far as talking goes, I just start throwing out these weird dad jokes to Pete, and he'd be, be like, "Oh God, I fell for that," because I tried to do it to where I was asking an actual question, and then a dad joke would come out, and he would just be like, "Oh God, no." So, and then Angie would pop in with something. So yeah, we had so much fun. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's, amazing all the people you meet. And so, aside from Alexandra, creating possibly the only episode, what would be like your favorite type episodes? Like, who are your favorite people that you were like?
So, I'd say my favorite was we were doing an episode about the Amityville horror, but not about the ghosts, but about the murder and the possible demonic voices. And I believe the woman's name was Daddario. She was actually the reporter who had done all of the reporting at the time that it happened. So we had her on, and we got into some really detailed questions about, how come it said that people couldn't hear the gunshots. We did find out that people did hear the gunshots, but the whole thing, that somebody put this cloak of mystery around it. So we kind of were like trying to pull the mystery away. So that one I really enjoyed, and Daddario actually wanted to come back, but Pete passed away. As a matter of fact, the guest that we were going to have on just before Pete, or actually I should say just after Pete passed away, was Michael Quarantino. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the name, but Quarantino is his mother's maiden name. His actual name is Michael Lutz. He was actually the youngest son at the Amityville house, and he was our next guest, but unfortunately Pete came down with COVID and passed away. We were all really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and our condolences to you on losing Pete.
Did you ever meet Pete?
No.
Pete was literally the best person I have ever known. The man would literally bend over backwards to help anybody in need. I mean, he was just fantastic. The world is definitely a lesser place without him in it.
Well,
So.
I would venture to say, but you're there to keep his memory alive, so therefore,
And I always will.
Truly lost. It's just a little diminished.
Yeah. I just hope that. Unfortunately, we have not been able to get the Full Spectrum Project archives back from the producer, and I've been trying my best to get them. I'm hoping I don't have to take her to court to do it, because they're technically our shows, not hers, regardless of whether it was her platform they were on or not. We were paying her to put them on her platform. But I really want to get them back out there so we can put them back up, so people so people can remember Pete. I know that sounds weird. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. so people can have a little bit of laugh. Mitchell from the History, Haunts, and Legends?
Yes.
We had him on twice, and he was like going, dude, I have to come back. This is just so much fun. And part of that was because of Pete. And then Greg Lawson we had on a couple times.
Greg was fun.
Yeah, Greg, oh my God, Greg is a crack up. Yeah, you met Greg, I would imagine. Yeah, Greg is fantastic. So
yeah, he was at the table next to you when I met you, and
yeah,
he's a brat.
However, if you ever hear anything from him called the Clune method, he's lying. He is lying through his teeth. He is lying.
That's so funny.
I don't know what you're talking about. He made it up. He made it all up.
Yeah, I remember when I was there and we were all talking, and it was funny because it was Mitch, and then it was Greg, and then it was you, and we all just started talking all together.
Yep. Yeah. That's another one of the reasons I love going out there. I mean, it's a long drive for us, but it's worth it. You know, we have an absolute ball there. So, and one of these days, I'm going to take a little bit of extra time. I do not believe in Bigfoot, but because Jefferson is supposedly the Bigfoot capital of Texas, I'm going to have to go out and do some squatching.
Yeah, there's I think someone said 10 statues around the city.
Something like that, yeah. There's one right across from the visitor center.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know yet. Yeah. So, by the way, you do know why it is so hard to get a good picture of a Sasquatch,
No.
right? Because they're actually naturally blurry. That's a joke.
I was trying to picture in my head. Wait, how can they be blurry?
Yeah.
You got me on that one.
What was her name? I can't remember her name, but she has a press now. She helps people publish their books, and she is like a huge Bigfoot researcher, and we had her on our show, and that's one of the things I told her, because I said, I really want to see a clear picture of a Bigfoot, and she said, well, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I said, I know, because they're naturally blurry. She just we won't go any further on that, but yeah, it was funny. So,
well, as always, it's a blast talking with you, and we'll have to get you back on because it's just so much fun. And you both, I gotta admit, you did most of the talking, but both of you together, it's like, man, I'm so glad you were able to come on, because you guys bring a lot of humor to the paranormal, and it's kind of refreshing because everyone's always like, oh yeah, we had this spirit here, and this is this claim, and this is how I researched it, and you guys are like, yeah, there's a haunt over there. Yeah, I got a book about it if you really want to read it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to have some fun. Our lives are short. It's better to laugh, Yeah, we take a lot of investigations seriously, but some of them you just have to kind of like you weren't at the Paracon a few days ago, but I did have a couple EVPs that I had to put something together really quick for this one. I only had like a week and a half to put something together. But I had a couple of EVPs that I found absolutely hilarious. There's one EVP that we got at the Cuban Queen brothel crib in Jerome, Arizona. And Bob, my buddy, was saying goodbye, and you hear two girls and then a male voice. You hear, Goodbye. Thank you, fucker. This came right after the same ghost called Bob a puto bendejo. So, yeah, I don't think the spirit liked him much. But the one I ended with, we have no idea. It's just a spirit at Linda Vista Hospital psych ward. All you hear is the spirit go, "My nuts." We're really hoping that he is talking about peanuts, but we don't know that for a fact. So,
yeah, here's hoping.
So, yeah, even ghosts like to have a good time, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I know you're anxious to get some rest and get everybody.
Actually, we're going in to get dinner.
Well, dinner works too, so.
Yeah, that's why we're in a parking lot. We're in the parking lot of a mall at the moment.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate all you do for the paranormal community, and thank you for that. And to everyone who's watching, if you want to read his books, there are links to his books in the bio description. So feel free to check them out. And thank you so much, and we will definitely get you back on.
Sounds good. You know how to get a hold of me.
Yes, and hopefully next time you're on, I'll be at a place where I won't disappear on you.
There you go. All right. Listen, thanks so much. We had an absolute ball.
Thank you. So did I, and I appreciate you guys a lot.
All right. We will talk to you later, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.